Yeah, just what was mentioned was a bond, and I'm sure that got a lot of people's ears perked up. And let me just give you a little bit of backstory on that. Bond issue was put out several years ago, before I was on the board, and that bond has a balloon payment that's going to be due in about 3 to 4 years, 5 years, that is really going to hit the citizens of Waukegan hard. What the school district is trying to do, and what we're trying to do, is simply to refinance that bond for longer term and a lower interest rate, thus getting rid of that bump. And we'll also be able to raise a little bit of extra revenue, we're not talking about a lot, to take care of the serious, immediate concerns of life safety issues, such as a traffic auditorium where people can't really even use a stage or rigging because of problems. We're hoping to do that with an actual reduction in tax rates, certainly smoothing out of tax rates with regards to the bonding. There are a number of different very important things that we can explore in order to look at additional funds for the buildings. Ms. Hannah just mentioned windows. There's going to be a special program that the federal government's going to have for energy conservation. And let me tell you, if you sit next to those windows, it's important you know just how good they are, and they do need to be replaced. And I think we can save a lot of money, both in terms of energy usage and in terms of how we fund them to save a little bit of money. But it's a huge money problem. It's a huge money problem. We simply, it's a tough situation. We're going to have to get and raise money from any source we can, because our children deserve just as good classrooms as anybody else in this country. Thank you.
We have approximately $160 million business in our school district, and we do not have a critical infrastructure improvement plan in our comprehensive strategic plan. We've got overcrowding in classrooms. We've got windows without screens. We've got ledges that fall off of the buildings. We have no plan. All this is crisis management, one roof, one HVAC system, one pump after another. If you manage your house that way, you'd go bankrupt. What we need is a comprehensive strategic plan that identifies what critical infrastructure improvements have to be accomplished over time. When you identify what we want our schools to look like in the future and make decisions now to ensure that happens. That means managing the budget, and we all know that socioeconomically we're going to be challenged in the next few years. That calls for critical thinking, problem-solving, decision-making. I've managed a $14 million public safety budget in good times and in bad. And it takes leadership to identify what the priorities are and to invest in the future critical infrastructure. The reason is because if we wait to crisis manage these things, they become cost prohibitive. We have no financial plan, and it breaks our back for academic programs that we have planned for. So we have to have a comprehensive strategic plan with benchmarks for critical infrastructure improvement. Is it going to be tough? Is it going to be tough to tighten our belts and put money aside so we aren't surprised by a roof that's leaking and has to be replaced? We aren't surprised by an HVAC system. We're not surprised by a pump that costs thousands of dollars and then we've got to take from school books for children. It's going to be tough, but it takes leadership to make those decisions, and that's what I promise, hopefully next Tuesday. Thank
you.
Several years ago, my brother's automobile seized up on him, the engine seized up on him, and he didn't realize that you needed to check the oil every once in a while. And in the Navy, we call that preventive maintenance, PMS. It's a different kind of... But maybe I shouldn't stand there. Preventive maintenance. Now we've got a maintenance guy back here. One of the things that's been missing, I think, and for many, many years, is preventive maintenance. If you wait, as Steve said, if you wait for a crisis to happen, if you wait for, was it Greenwood School or North School, for that big chunk of the side of the wall to fall down, if you wait until the tuck pointing needs to be done, and it's very obvious to anyone seeing that we have such a horrible condition in many of the buildings. If you wait until the end, somebody's going to get hurt, something's going to break down, and then you've got a huge bill in your hand. We have, in the military, we had preventive maintenance that we did on a daily basis, a weekly basis. It's called, any military veterans would know, it's called an M1R or a W1. We had a weekly, monthly, semi-annual, annual, and biannual, certain things that we checked out on a daily basis and on a regular basis. Our maintenance people need to be doing that on a more regular basis. We've got to work hand in hand with them so we can spot problems ahead of time rather than waiting until the building's 100 years old before we look at the tuck point. Or waiting until the building's 80 years old before we do more than just paint over the problem. Where's the money going to come from? Obviously, no one knows. But I have never voted for a referendum for an increase on taxes for the school. The referendum that passed $6 million.
Okay, the first step to solving the problem is to define the problem, identify it and define it. And, we knew we had a problem. When I joined the board about a year and a half ago, one of my biggest concerns was the infrastructure of our schools. Our schools are all getting older, and I have a background in trade. I'm a heating air conditioning contractor, and another one of our board members, Mr. Mark Hahn, also has a construction background. He owns real estate, and he's very familiar with the ins and outs of maintaining properties. We began to do an assessment of some of the schools, just to see what condition some of these buildings were in, and it was appalling, some of the things that we saw. And we realized at that point in time that something needed to be done, a comprehensive plan needed to be set up. We went and visited some of the boiler rooms, found pumps that were leaking, controls that were non-functional. We questioned why is this allowed to happen? We found out we only have 2 HVAC servicing the whole district for all the buildings that we have. 2 people servicing the whole district. That makes it impossible to actually do a sound preventive maintenance. They're lucky if they can, with those 2 people, if they can just respond to the crises as they happen. Okay, so what we have to do, and we've begun to do as a board, is to devise a plan. We have to set up a comprehensive plan. First step in the plan has got to be emergency service and repair, because there are life safety issues that need to be dealt with. North Schools is a good example. I couldn't believe it when I went by and I saw the condition of the wall after a chunk had fallen, and then realized that there are other parts of the wall that are in just bad condition. So this comprehensive plan has to start with an immediate plan for addressing some of the crisis situations that are either going to lead to injury to somebody if the walls are allowed to fall, or are allowed to lead to other kinds of damage. For example,